realizing that there is a greater me on the inside of me. The phrase "there's a greater you on the inside of you" means being above normal, understanding your worth, and being confident in knowing who you are. But the first person who has to realize that there's a greater you on the inside of you is you. In life, we all go through stages of the good, the bad, and the ugly, which leads us to our purpose and promise. UTCM is a platform where you get to share your story and your truth of unmasking moments that allows you to embrace all stages in your life. UTCM looks forward to many people being able to unmask, uncover, and unveil themselves on the podcast. Thank you for watching and joining us.
Yeah, we in the house.
We live.
Yeah.
I have both of my fathers on the podcast today.
Look at that.
Where they do that at? That's a blessing right there in itself. I'm so excited. I feel like a little girl in the candy store. I got both of my dads. I have my biological father, Ali, better known as DJ Ali. Then I have my spiritual dad, Jeffrey B. Kearney, better known as Bishop Apostle Dad, all that good stuff, right? The one that really like yokes me up most of the time. Like, we're not even having to touch me though. Like, we're gonna talk about that off camera too. You be coming for my neck sometimes. You be coming for my neck. My father do too. Like, they be, you know what I'm saying? They be making me navigate sometimes, because sometimes I be wanting to go in it. Like, I be wanting to stay there. They be like, hey,
yeah, come on up.
Come back around.
Yeah,
so I appreciate both of you guys coming on today. Thank you everybody for who will join, who is on now. I'm just super excited. I feel like this is a great topic. I actually did some research, which we'll kind of dive into in a little bit too as well. And the episode is the unapologetic dad, right? Fatherhood, and really kind of speaking from a father's standpoint, right? And some of maybe the challenges, the struggles, that you have as a father, have had as a father, right? I feel like, and what better month to do this in? I didn't even realize it, that it was Men's Mental Health Month this month. And for this month, I had all men on my podcast, and that was I guess it wasn't by accident, right? But I didn't even realize it until like today, until like I was writing out the stuff for our episode and everything. And it's just like, I feel like I actually got a little teary-eyed when I was like just looking up some of the information, right, about just men and mental health. And, for me, from a standpoint, it was always because my dad and my biological father, Ali, we've come a long way. And because of, things that maybe have been said to me or how I felt, not knowing how to express, right, I didn't even realize or even have the capacity to look at it from his lens, right? So I'm happy now that I'm able to sit in a seat of where I'm able to like hear him out, right? And also maybe understand a little bit too, like, okay, like I see why you did what you did, or why you responded the way you know what I'm saying, or you had to do what you had to do for you. But when I was going through it, that wasn't my story. I was pissed. I was pissed off. But now I'm so happy that we're here and I can actually have both of you on a platform to really just speak to, fatherhood. I feel like it's necessary. It's so necessary, because I looked up some statistics and it says more than 6 million men suffer from depression each year. I'm like, wait. And it's crazy because it also says in the United States, almost 16% of men reported dealing with mental disorders in 2020. Research shows less than half of them will receive treatment, although options, to get help are available. But a big part of the problem in society is the perception of men who are struggling, like, right, like having that model of, or that mindset of like, man up. Right, like
take it like a man. When we was coming, take it like a man.
Yeah,
fall down, hurt yourself. Take it like a man. Why do I have tear ducts if I can't cry?
That part. That
And
whole part.
nobody ever told us what does it mean to take it like a man.
Right. Yeah.
Yes, that's good that you say that, right? So where does that really like stem from? Because somebody else at my job today, and he's not even of African American culture, but he said like even being younger, it was always like I couldn't cry. Like I had to, if something was bothering me, like I couldn't cry about it. Like I had to like just like brush it off. So where does that really like come from?
Because the perception of weakness was never allowed.
Mm-hmm.
And tears was always tears. Um, Passivity was always a sign of weakness. And
Right.
it was, in fact, let's switch this a bit. It wasn't that it wasn't just not allowed, it was actually punished.
Oh yeah. Oh
Mm.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I remember lots. I remember lots of times when when you're little, the more you cry, the more they beat you. You know,
Mm.
because it was like, no need. Why are you crying? Let me. No, the thing was, I'll give you something to cry about.
That's the line right there. I
That's
was just thinking that. Let me give you. I already got something to cry about.
Yeah,
I don't need
right?
nothing else.
What you gonna give me? You giving me more to cry about? I'm already crying. Yeah. Remember that? I'll give you something to cry about.
And
Yeah.
we
I
would get
mean, yeah.
beat to stop crying.
Yeah, I mean, I was not a crier when I was a kid. As the when the beatings happened, I was like I would like fake it so that it would stop, and
mm.
then my little brother be over there whimpering for hours in the corner, and all I would be doing is, oh my God, I had terrible thoughts when I was a kid about how I was gonna get him back when I got bigger. Now I can't wait to get bigger to hit you back.
Mm.
So it's for me. I was never the kid like if I hurt myself, I was gonna cry. You know, I
Right.
I was always connected to my emotions. I didn't buy into a lot of the stuff that was being taught. Like I just say, yeah, no, it hurts. So and tears are coming down. I'm going to stop them from coming. No, I'm just
Right.
going to cry and get it done.
Yeah. Yeah. So, that's a good segue, right? So, I want both of you to maybe just share like a little background or history of your journey of fatherhood.
I'll let
I was getting ready to.
Pastor go first.
Whichever one want to go first. I'm not picky.
Mine gonna be half the night. Good Lord.
Well, I think for me, I always think that I started like being a father really, really young. I was like 16, and yeah, I had like a lot of great men in my life, like my great grandfather, my grandfather, Pastor Thomas. But at that time, even the greatest of men still had this thing where they could do whatever they wanted because their wives were pretty much their property. So they could do whatever they wanted as long as they came home, as long as they came home at night. So I didn't really attach to the way they fathered, in that way. I attached more to the feminine, like grandma and great grandma, because they were always home. They was always, there. And so being a young father, I wanted to be completely different than my dad. Like I loved my dad, but I saw this part where I didn't want to treat the person that I was with like that. I didn't want to treat my you and Shamar. I didn't, they had this thing where let them cry. And for me, when a baby cries, that's their way of communicating, trying to communicate something because they can't use words. So I wasn't going to let you just sit in the crib and cry for 4 hours. I was going to pick you up and comfort you and hold you. And we had a really strange, balance once I became a father. We were like totally opposite in what he wanted me to do. Like he called me him pet because I wanted to be around my family. Like I wanted to take care of you. I wanted to, and so I, as a young father, I was really, really trying not to repeat what I saw from a lot of the men that I grew up around. I loved them, I did, and I learned a lot from them too. But that part, I just didn't want to have that part in my, relationship with my kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
With me, it was presently abusive.
Mm.
So I grew up, mother, father, whole 9 yards and everything. But I would in turn, unfortunately, early repeat the cycle. I became a father a little bit later. I was like 22, 23 when I became a father with my son. But all I knew was the discipline side. And it kind of fell in because my son was from a relationship in college. Unfortunately, she just recently passed away, but a relationship in college. And it was almost a good cop, bad cop. So I became the disciplinarian more than the affection. And that kind of carried over till something clicked one day and said, all you're doing is repeating your father. So that sent me probably on about a 3-year, and this is going to sound real bad, but I don't know any other way to say it, sent me on about a 3-year kill your father in you deliverance. To the point where, and this didn't happen until after, well, really after my father died. I saw a picture of my grandfather because I never had a grandfather. Both of them died before I was born. And I looked at my grandfather and understood my father. So in understanding him, I understood me, but then I understood what I had to not be. So then, now I'm an only child. I didn't have no siblings. I'm an only child. So what does God do to break me down? He gives me daughters. So I have the one son by blood, and then two daughters by blood, and then 3 adopted daughters.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. That Lord Jesus, they was just all in this house.
Right.
I was Michael Jackson up on the pole in the Wiz. I couldn't win. Couldn't break even. Couldn't get out the game. They had a sleepover one night. I went and stayed at the hotel. So the softening came through the son, but mainly the daughters. Because of course you can't treat a daughter like you treat a son.
Right.
Son,
you shouldn't.
You should. Well, thank you, Ali.
Right.
Yeah, thank you. Because some do. You're right. The son, he act up. Bam. But the daughter act up. I mean, she crying, and and even with that, I was still in error. Some things I had to learn because some things still carried over. So it's still a learning process because I got these grandkids now, and Jesus help me, please.
Right. And you mentioned something. I'm just gonna I'll call you Dad, Dad Jeff, right? You mentioned something about killing your father in you. Like, what did that look like for
you? Hell. And I had to say it like that because how do you kill what you viewed as a hero?
Right.
That what part. You found out the hero, though he did the best he could. Now, let me say that. He did the best he knew how to do based upon how he was taught.
Well, he was taught, right?
But how do you kill the villain that was the hero? Listen, everywhere my father went, I went. He took me everywhere he went, but I didn't realize he took me everywhere he went because my mother didn't trust him. So if he gonna act up a cheat, he ain't gonna act up a cheat with me in the car. So all the fishing and everything and all that, it was just in case. So I benefited from it,
Mm-hmm.
But when I realized who he was in me, I, that's a whole nother broadcast.
Yeah.
Just how do you just over years, just kill that person? That's why a lot of times in church I tell the parents, your child's issue is their you, or your
Yeah.
issue with your child is their you. So
Mm-hmm.
what you're really trying to kill is the unresolved you that you didn't resolve.
Yeah.
Indeed. Indeed.
Like my father's an arguer, yelled, hollered, screamed, abusive, detrimental. And, Aisha, I'm laid back.
Yeah.
If I get upset, somebody got to die.
Yeah, I was the same. And a lot of that anger though, when we have retrospective on it, a lot of the anger that especially men of color from
Mhm.
generations past, a lot of it came from them not being able to express themselves outside of that, outside of
Yeah.
their homes. They were put down to be less than animals sometimes, not respected. And so of course they gotta have respect in their house. So that came as abusive to us. I remember when Roots came out in 1970. That was the last time I got a beating, because I was looking at all the adults around me saying, y'all know that's from slavery, right? I gave the adults around me a hard time as a young person.
Right.
I was like, do not even think to be whipping me no more, because that comes from slavery. And don't take out your anger on me. And he didn't whip me. He didn't hit me no more either, because he knew I was right. And
Yeah.
I think that's what happened with my father and me, because like unlike you, my father took me to his other ladies' houses,
Mm.
and say, "Oh, that's your little brother," and I'm like, "My little brother? No, my little brother's at home with mom, ain't he?" And I remember one time he took me to Uncle Saladin, right, Naisha?
Mhm.
He took me, and oh, that's your little brother, and oh my God! All after that, I don't remember anything else except riding in the car, holding on to the handle of the door, just waiting to get home. And I remember just jumping out. And I don't even remember if I closed the door or not. And I just remember running in the house, Mom, Dad took
Right.
me to this lady house and told me that was my little brother. Is that my little brother? And I do remember a big fight after that. And I kind of think that was around the time when my mom left too. If I like really, really like go back into my memory banks, and like we were on Vassar Avenue, she left on Vassar Avenue. So I
Mm.
think that was, so my point is that he made me who I am. Like we say, right? Like you said earlier, like when I was young, every time he introduced me to someone, oh, he's going to be the first black president. He was like, he built up all this confidence in me. And as I got older, I just would see like the contradictions in character.
Mm.
You built up all this integrity. My grandfather too, Pastor Thomas, Ernest Leonard, who we talked about, Pastor, before.
Wow.
Like all of them, right? They gave me all this great foundation. As all the people in our era, we knew they would die for us. Shirley Chisholm, all these people, right? All we were seeing, when I was in kindergarten, the song, I remember looking out the window one time and this flatbed truck came by and all these people were dancing on it and they were playing, I'm black, I'm proud, I'm beautiful. So my entire young life, that's all I was hearing. You're great, you're great. And I was seeing all this greatness. But then I got older and I saw the other side,
Mm.
where, cousins, late girls that I was kissing on the bus end up being my aunties, and stuff like that. I saw I'm going to use the word hypocrisy part,
Mm.
to the integrity. And by that time, I had already believed in integrity. I had already believed, I had already had the foundation that honor mattered and all that stuff. So when I start seeing all that other stuff, it like made me like, it threw me aback and said like, yeah, what is that? Like, be a person of your word. That's what you're teaching me, right? You're teaching me to be a person of my word, to have integrity. So for a long time, some of the men in my family, we kind of butted heads a lot, because I didn't take their advice. They always wanted me to follow this path that I didn't want to follow,
So that's a good point, Dad, right? Because the wheels are turning. Like y'all done said a whole lot, and I got a whole lot of questions in my head, right? So do you feel like because of
one thing I was going to say though, Ali, at least you had the one side of hypocrisy.
Right. That's true.
I was never told I was going to be anything.
That's true. Yeah. I did have the other side of them telling me.
Right. So I had voicelessness of destiny.
Right. No building up. Right.
So the only thing that changed me was a phone call. My friend had got shot and killed because we was both going to do drugs together. And both of us was in college doing okay. But you going to be this, you going to be that. And most people know. The first time I heard my father tell me he loved me, I was 58, right before he died.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So I don't know which side works better.
Right, because both of y'all just gave, you know what I'm saying, both the sides.
Yeah. But the side that works is when you come through it, because we came through it and we are here, and we have both of that. We have all of that inside of us.
Right.
Because
help everybody.
We have a little bit of all that we were taught is inside. It's up to us to make the choice of what do we do with what we know.
That's true.
Right.
So.
And because of, like going through those, like you said, like that you said, your father never even, he never built you up. Right. And then that your father would build you up, but then kind of tear you back down too, as well at the same time. Right. Like, so do you feel like that was a part of maybe like, maybe the hindrance in fatherhood, like in the beginning stages of like really not knowing how to father correctly? Because now I don't want to say correctly because parenting doesn't come with a rule book. Like we don't know. We just kind of do as we go and learn as we go. But do you feel like some of those hindrance or some of those hiccups that happen is because of what you saw or what happened to you?
For me, I was ready when it happened. I got a job. I made sure that I started saving money. By the time I was 18, we had an apartment. I was going to work every day. I was doing everything in my power to make sure that I kept my family together. Like there was nothing more important to me than keeping my family together. And there was nothing more important than you. like even Shamar, I can say that. Like you was with me every day. I would drive a taxi at night from 6 o'clock at night to 6 o'clock in the morning. I would come home. I would take your mother to work. I would take you to school. And I would pick you up from school. And if I had more runs, you would come with me. That's why we was in that accident together.
Yeah.
Like up until a certain point, like every day. And what I wanted to instill in you most of all was that you had a voice, and that you could use your voice and you could say what you felt and you can do what you want. I wanted you to grow and be a balanced human being. And I was always like ridiculed for allowing you to say what you needed to say, like respectfully. You wasn't a disrespectful kid, but if your mom and I were arguing, or if we were going through something, I needed to explain to you that it wasn't your fault, and all the adults around me were telling me that I was crazy, because I was involving you. And I would simply tell them, she is involved.
Yeah.
Like she's involved. She lives in this house. She's hearing us argue. She's watching us fight each other. Like, how is she not involved? Like, how is she not involved? So for me, I took on the job of being a father at that young age very seriously.
Yeah.
Like I for a lot of years I had to, I had to search deep and say, what did I do wrong? Because because there's always sides. Life is like a prism. It
Yeah.
ain't just one side. If you're only looking through one side of the prism, you missing all this other beauty.
Yeah.
So I know that I had a part in it, right? But for years I was saying, okay, I went to work, I came home, I paid bills, I did everything that I was supposed to be doing. What was my part in this thing not being successful? You
Mm.
know, and I couldn't come up with anything, and it just bothered me for so many years. I had no idea. I mean, I was dreaming about Desi 30 years later. She was still tormenting my dreams, and and even to this day, some of the dreams are still like
Oh,
like
Jesus.
I'm like, that was almost 40 years, that was 30 some years ago. And it's still, my subconscious is still in there. But I don't say that to to put anybody else down. But as a young person at that age, I was ready. Like, I was ready. I was like, let's do this. Like, oh, we need a car. Let's get a car. We need food. We're gonna eat. We're gonna have food. Like, even when we was living with Footsie and all of them, and they wasn't eating, we was eating.
Right.
Because I was like, I got money, and we gonna go to Burger King, and I'm gonna take my family to Burger King, and we gonna have some food. I don't know what y'all gonna do, because y'all ain't coming with us. But I mean, sitting in the doctor office when you was a baby, hours. I don't understand how people can sit in the doctor's office that long anyway. But it was like 3 or 4 hours we would sit in the doctor's office. You was always on my shoulders. Like, I'm just testifying right now that I was ready.
Right.
There could have been a lot more things in the as it happened that I could have did. There are always regrets. We can sit down and regret our whole life. And one of the things that I know that I regret, and I've told you this, is that I should have did more to get you away from that situation. Because in retrospect, I know that it would have been really hard, but I know that I could have.
Yeah.
I know that I had the support from at least my mom. If I
Right.
said, Naisha and I are coming to live with you, she would say, come on, bring it. And for me, not knowing the story after I left until you told me, like, I had a totally different picture of our relationship.
Yeah.
Like, I had a totally different picture. I had a total, because I didn't know that part of the story.
Which is a good which is, I feel like, a good point, right, to put a pin in, right? Because I feel like every daughter should really sit down and have a conversation with their father, right? Whether they're estranged, or they haven't been in their life for a while and they came back, right? Like, I feel like there was such healing in the second time around, that because we had a conversation the first time, but
Mhm.
I didn't have the capacity to be able to really, like, be honest and truthful, because I was scared. I was you know what I'm saying? Like, I just had that, I was fearful. But the
Mhm.
second time around, I was able to really, like, speak my truth, and really even say, like, Dad, when you left, like, that hurt. Like, it hurt me when you left, and I couldn't understand. I was too young to understand what
Mhm.
you were feeling. And that wasn't my job either.
Right.
Right. So I feel like every daughter should have a conversation with their father, right? And having a father on the flip side being able to, because what my dad did for me, which helped, was he said nothing. He sat there. He didn't try to, make himself, like feel better or whatever. Like he just allowed me to say what I needed to say. I was snot nose crying. It was ugly, but I felt a little lighter. You know what I'm saying? And I was able to now like begin to open up. You know what I'm saying? And share that hard stuff because every daughter needs a father.
Yeah.
Every daughter needs a father.
Paternal. There's no paternal and maternal are equal together. Anytime that we see children that don't have paternal and maternal create balance, right? Anytime that we see children that don't have one or the other that grow into adults, a lot, not all, but there's a lot of imbalance in that when we don't have the balance of the paternal and the maternal energy, because that's how we're created with that energy.
Yeah.
So I believe that it's both. We're both equally important, you know.
Word. I actually now we done went through all that.
Yeah, we all
I
that.
forgot to. Dad, you remember the question?
No,
Because you got to answer.
it's your turn, Pastor.
No. You know what it is. With me, sometimes we need a male figure to push us to better. And where my father didn't do it, believe it or not, Yvette's father did. With concerning Damon. He was like, come on, you gotta do better. He was always encouraging to do better, never necessarily demeaning or anything like that. Now, was there challenges? Yes. But one of the things that was always put in place was the necessity of presence. This is why a lot of times, and Ali, this is no knock on you because times were different then. But I tell fathers now, well, she won't. I said, then you do what you have to do what you got to do. I said, because at the end of the day, men moving on becomes the point of attack and hatred. Where I would rather shut you out from the child, not understanding you're doing more damage to the child than you are to the father. Because whether it's a daughter or a son, they need both parents, but unfortunately it's the father that's the one that's the most absent, because the mother can't tell you who you are. It's an attempt to, but that's the father's job. I mean, Aisha, at the end of the day, how many days we fought about that, because the voice and, oh Lord, this is going to come out so bad. Oh, jeez. So bad.
Long as it's true, as long as this is truth.
Yeah, too many times the mother, when things are not correct, so I'm going to say it like that, becomes the voice of bitterness than better. So in being the voice of bitterness, that toxicity rests in the house. So sometimes it takes the perseverance of a father that don't care to eliminate that, rather than, unfortunately, but fortunately, have to fix it later.
Right. Yes.
Because even if you fix it, there's still residue.
It's still
going to be the question of, and listen, I deal with it, unfortunately, ministerially and all that. But if you love me enough, why didn't you push further? Not knowing I couldn't push further.
Sure.
Because pushing further, because sometimes we have a heart, even though, and this isn't my case, so let me say that. So this isn't my case. But a lot of times we respect the mother enough to let her have her way. Because we'll view it as men, that's more damage if we press it than if we leave it.
That's good.
Yeah.
So I would rather be the bad guy, let the mother talk bad about me, rather than me talk bad about the mother, because
Mhm.
sooner or later it's gonna kick back on the one that spewed the
That's,
poison.
mm-hmm. Yep. Go ahead, say it. Appreciate
So at the end of the day, try to remain consistent without
it.
the man getting bitter.
Right.
Mhm.
You know, we'll deal with the regret, but try not to move um, into the bitterness. Like, our situations are so drastically different when it comes, to our kids, because listen, at the end of the day, I'm gonna see him,
Right.
or however, whatever. That's what I'm gonna do. But I did not have the resistance.
Yeah, and it was oof,
Yeah, I had the support of her
oof, Lord.
father. Like when we didn't get along,
Right. Mm-hmm.
he was still, I don't care what she do, you come see your son.
Right. Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
even when I was acting crazy,
Right. It was like,
Right.
still,
come on.
yeah.
And and to get on that, Father, I actually, Pastor, I actually was, trying to come, you know. I was still like I was, because again, this is, my life, my family. And I was still, even with other guys being in the picture, I didn't care about them. I don't care who you with now. I'm coming to see. But I mean, there was I saw Darren Lennon, Pastor Darren Lennon on right earlier. We grew up together, right? He can testify to this. I wasn't always this nice, calm, happy Monday person. When I was a kid, I was ready. I was ready at any moment to defend myself and to like take you out if I had to. And so it got to that point where I was feeling myself go back to being someone that I did not want to be. Someone that I did not want to be. And I knew that if I kept going around, that I might not be able to come around. She might have to be coming to see me in jail, or, you know, those kinds, because it was just that terrible. I couldn't even come around and be nice, you know?
So
So,
it changed who you were, which is then with you expressing that to me, and then as a 40-year old
right.
Naisha, right?
Mhm.
Because sometimes I still go back to 10-year-old
Sure.
Naisha, right? Because I'm working through trauma, right? But it changed who you were. So because it was changing who you were, you decided that I have to love me more and I matter, so I will, like Dad just said, like I'll take the step back, right? Because at the end of the day, if I don't, then this just not
Yeah,
going to
it's
be
yeah,
resolved.
if I didn't take a step back, it wasn't going to end in any kind of way that was nice. It just wasn't. I was like, I literally tried to commit suicide,
Mm.
because I couldn't understand the situation. I couldn't understand. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing here. Like I'm taking care of my family. I'm doing what I should be doing. You know, and I couldn't understand it. I was young. I had given up way too much of who I was to another human being, instead of realizing that it's a relationship is reciprocal. A relationship is two people or four people, however many. Human relationships are reciprocal, and I had given that up. I had given up myself all the way over to not, and it got to the point where, okay, I didn't hurt myself, so who I'm gonna hurt now?
So that's good, right? Because how many other fathers out there like feel that way, right? Like you said that it got so bad to the point where you wanted to, because you know what I'm saying, you felt like there was no out, right? And then you also, with going back to like the men, you know, and them not being integral, and you know, really you being able to like have anybody to speak to. There's so many other men that feel that same way. Like, what would be something that you would want to say to encourage a father that that's maybe watching or will watch, right? That there is hope, right? There is light at the end of the tunnel, because you're still sitting here. You
Yeah.
didn't follow through with it.
Mhm. I mean, I would just tell someone in that situation to first, believe in their higher power. You know, there's so many people who lose their way with that. And I would say just, it's kind of hard to say, because saying just simple as being true to yourself, like we're not taught to do that. Like we're not taught to like look inside of ourselves. Everything is outside of us, happiness, love, everything is outside. So we're not taught to remember that we have our own instincts, and the voice that we have that's connected to our instincts is right. Like listen to yourself too. Listen to how you feel, express how you feel,
Right.
not just to yourself, but to the person that you're dealing with. That's what I would say mostly. Like just like, don't be afraid to express what you're feeling, you know,
Right.
in a non-accusatory way,
Yeah.
like, this is how I feel.
Yeah.
And if I was able to do that at that age, I was just full of rage and full of emotion. I wasn't able to sit back and say, well, this is how I actually feel. And I'm not saying that you make me feel this way. I'm just saying this is how I feel from the situation that we're in.
But you was
And
never really allowed or even had a space, right? Like even you two, Dad, like you guys were never really given a safe space to really like sit down and express yourself like that, right?
I
Express
mean,
what?
Like
Express
how
what?
you was feeling
To who?
yeah,
to
that,
your parents, to any like to
we grew up in the era. We grew up in the era of. You know why he's like that? Because he gonna know this. He gonna remember this statement too. We grew up in the era where children should be seen and not
and
heard.
not heard. Mm.
I was not one of those kids either.
Express yourself.
Yeah,
Ex-
yeah.
Let
I'm
me
not.
let me let me say this. I think one of the greatest challenges is when you have two people that come together as parents at a young age, we bring our dysfunction with us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Oh,
So we both trying
big
to figure
baggage.
out how to do this.
Mm-hmm. And
Right.
you really haven't been taught how
Have
to
it.
deal with it.
What?
Yeah. At that age, 16, 17.
Uh-uh.
Yeah.
I only duplicated what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so challenging. It is so challenging. And we do not listen. And everybody trying to be right.
Right.
And that's the hard part. Everybody's trying to be right. And yeah, it's just, this is what causes the mess because nobody wants to accept the responsibility of error.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Or
Yep.
teach from a young age to teach us to express ourselves at a young age. You know,
Express. Last time I expressed myself, I woke up with an ant walking across my eyes.
Oh, because you got hit and knocked out.
Okay, yeah, no,
Mm.
and because I wanted to do something, and I
some
forgot. I don't even remember what I said, but all I know is I saw an ant with a piece of bread walking by my eyes,
wow,
and my mother standing over me saying, "Don't kill him."
wow,
Mm.
wow. Yeah.
Mm.
Now, I was smart enough to stay down.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
How old were you when this happened?
maybe 15,
Mm.
Yeah.
maybe 15. something like that. You know, so
And it just came from you just trying to express yourself.
yeah, it wasn't nice what I said,
But
but
still, it was what you felt, right?
Right.
It
yeah,
was what you felt. It was what you it. And for me, this is one of the greatest parenting lessons that you ever could learn. To let your children express themselves. Like
right,
even in this day and time, people like, oh, these kids, they don't have any respect. And first of all, do you respect them? Did you teach them to respect themselves? Did you teach them to respect others? But my point is, like, they're human beings. They should be able to. And I said this. I was saying this when you was 5 and 6. I still feel the same way. You're a human being. You don't understand the world on the level that I understand it as an
right,
adult,
right.
but you live in this world and you have an opinion and you live in the world. You have an expression of what you know about the world. Why would I not want to hear what you have to say? You
And
know?
not understanding that our kids' world is authentic to ours. In other words, it's
Mm-hmm.
different than ours.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there still has to be a point of listening to even
Mm-hmm.
understand their world.
Mm-hmm.
Because what they had to deal with, because all mine are grown, what they had to deal with and what we had to deal with is two different worlds, though both
Yeah.
challenging.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So I don't, boy.
And their world is still, their view is still a bit more authentic and innocent. I mean, depending on what they've gone through in their life,
Right.
like if they've been shown some love and they've been shown, how to, navigate properly, then what they're probably expressing to you is really, really real, and it's from the heart. you know
And I mean, it's authentic. It's
yeah,
authentic.
it's authentic.
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
so just listen to them, and plus you're going to learn something. The young learn from the old, and the young and the old learn from the young.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You
Right.
know, if that ain't your way, then you missing something.
What they say, either it's my way or the highway, because they threaten to put you out.
Right. Oh yeah. That's, I mean, they couldn't do that after 17. They couldn't, I had that threat too. Actually, my mom's boyfriend, Fuzzy, he did put me out. He put me out. I mean, and this was one of those key turning points of my life. This is where y'all came into the picture, and again, regrets and thinking about stuff. So I think you said something earlier, Pastor, about the steps that you're taking, right? The path that you're going on. So, I mean, I was Elizabeth High School. I was an honor roll student again. I was interested in school again. I was on the basketball team. And then, we moved to Roselle, and he wanted to control me going to this other school, and I was enjoying where I was at. Again, I was an honor roll student. I was having fun, fun in school again. We had an Auntie Shirley, who just passed. She said, yeah, he can use my address, but he wanted to be in control of me and say, yeah, you can't, if you don't do what I say, you got to leave. His
And
real reason
I'm
was
thinking about
because
all the lines. I'm thinking about all the
yeah,
lines. I
yeah,
brought you into this world,
And I'll
yeah,
take you out.
all that
and
stuff.
and
Yeah.
and some of them, the progressive fathers had another one. I brought you in, I'll take you out and make another one look just like you.
Yeah, see,
What?
I never heard that
I
one.
never heard that one.
Megan, yeah. It was.
They won't even miss you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's like,
Oh, you just keep adding salt to the wound.
yeah, right. It's like,
Won't even miss you.
right. I'll make another
But
one.
that is like,
No.
those sayings are like from a hurt place.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Wow. All that stuff again, like we said earlier, it came from a place of humans being put down themselves, men being put down themselves, and they could not go and talk to the men that was putting them down. because I have a perfect example, and Darren knows about this too. We all of our family worked at this place called Bag Packaging Corporation. Started out in Newark, you know, and moved to Roselle, and generations. My dad worked there, all of our uncles, and my whole life I heard about this manager named Bob
I
Schaefer.
remember you telling me this story.
Bob. Everybody's scared of Bob. Everybody's scared of Bob. Bob was this, he was, the word boss comes from the fill hands that whipped the slaves.
Right.
See, right? That's the word boss. The first time you heard the word, yes, boss, right? So boss has a negative connotation. So everybody's scared of Bob, everybody. And I meet this guy and I look at him and like, this weakling. And so my point is that they couldn't argue back with them. So they came home and argued and beat up and took their bruises out on the people that they could, their kids and their wives.
That's what. And I know me. My grandmother was only one generation from slavery.
Right. My great grandparents too. Yeah.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, they still brought. And Naisha, I say this: whatever you don't forgive, you become.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you didn't forgive the slave master, you become the slave master.
Mm-hmm. Go get that switch off that tree.
Now watch this. Wasn't that some witchcraft?
Yeah, it was. Go get that.
How do you go get a switch to beat yourself?
Yeah. And it was definitely close to the whip because it left wet marks all on you. It was just a thing. Go get that switch off that tree. Now I'm gonna whip you.
Yeah. One thing I did learn though. I'm gonna say this. I'm probably getting in trouble. What I did learn was to not indict the other person. I learned that because I needed the person to see clear who everybody was.
And when you say indict the other person, like what do you mean?
In other words, whenever I was earlier, I'd be portrayed to be the bad guy. And that was the setup. Because I was the disciplinarian. But at the end of the day, time tells it.
See?
And you got to allow time to tell it.
Because I'm watching right now.
You can't get into a dispute over an undefeatable enemy. The other parent is always the undefeatable enemy because everybody has a part.
Right.
And my part had nothing to do with her.
Yeah.
My part had everything to do with my lifestyle and how I was trained. We didn't know about generational curses back then. So at the end of the day, obviously my father was a dog. I know. Everybody.
Yeah, it's true.
So watch this. I didn't know that was in me.
Right.
So in the general scheme of things, we don't even know what we're fighting.
It's true.
And what destroys relationships is everybody gets in the ambulance, but nobody gets to the hospital. We sign ourselves out in the ambulance because the ambulance says I'm a victim, but the hospital will make me a victor.
See,
that's good.
That part right there, because when I was ridiculed for doing this. When you talk about we don't know sometimes when we're carrying the generational curse with us and stuff, right? And you got to look really deep to be able to see that not only with yourself, but with others, with people that you connect to. And I went to Desi, I went to her mother, and I said, you have to talk to your daughter. You have to say something to her about what happened, because what's happening with our family is because of what you did. And I swear
everybody had I think
Everybody got
from
a
my
flaw.
perspective, everybody has, and this is from me speaking as the child, right?
Mhm.
I feel like everybody plays a role,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Everybody played a role in something, right? And the one thing that for me was, I never felt empowered to speak up, to say anything, because everybody, the adults were,
Yes.
you know what I'm saying, doing what they needed to do for them, but no one ever looked and said like, oh, well, what do you think, or how do you feel, or what's going on? Like I was completely like tossed to the back, right? Because
Yeah.
everybody else had their emotions and their feelings, right, about it. And so that's why I think the real encouragement is, you know what I'm saying, for children to really be offered a safe space, right, from a father standpoint and from a mother's, you know what I'm saying, standpoint too, as well. Like be able to offer your children a safe space to sit down and be able to express how they're feeling or what's going on, right? Like that's the true encouragement, right? And that also begins to be able to help with some of that generational trauma, right? And those
Yeah.
generational curses and all that stuff too, as well.
But most times the safe space, because I'm looking at two. Number one, I'm about to send Bishop Leonard an offering,
Mm.
because he said we're born into a fight.
Woo, that's good.
And then I'm looking at um, what Desi said, but here's the problem: everybody's a victim
Right.
authentically.
It's
That's
true.
It's
good.
just what year
It's
were
true.
you the victim?
It's certainly true. Yes.
Because I might have been the victim before I even had a child.
Absolutely.
While I was a child, I was a victim.
Absolutely.
That's why
Absolutely.
I told well, this church stuff, but Bishop Jakes preached a message, forever the victim. I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
The
We can
question
stop it.
is, at what point
Go ahead and say it.
do you stop being the victim?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because here's the problem. Too many times we're the victim and we want the child to be the judge.
Ah, that's it. I'm just gonna shut my computer off. That's it.
We
That's it.
want but then we intimidate the child to be the judge. Here's really the solution. Find somebody outside of yourselves that know
Mm-hmm.
you, that can tell the truth. Whether it be a brother, a sister, be like, no, you was nasty. You was nasty. No,
Period.
they should have left you. I'd have left you. I'd have walked away. Or no, you was a little soft. You should have stayed. You should have stayed.
Right.
You need
Yeah.
somebody outside. Let me tell you something. Sometimes me and Yvette would get into it, but all I would hear was her father. God knows I miss him so much. All I would hear was her father saying, Jeff, now if I dealt with her mother,
Mm-hmm.
you can deal with Yvette.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Just as plain, I can hear him saying that. So we sometimes need another voice. Otherwise, we're
Outside.
going to
Yeah.
always drink the Jack Daniels of pity.
Why
Yes.
you say Jack Daniels?
I don't drink, so that was the first thing came to mind.
I don't
So,
drink. I don't drink anymore either. But Jack Daniels was
anymore.
that was my friend long ago.
Anymore.
But a lot of times we're good at, and this is the weakness that we experience. We're good at pity parties, but we're not good at power parties.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to be good at power parties. Even when it's not, even when it seems that nobody else is on your side. We have to be good at power parties too. Pity parties are one thing, right? Yeah, but we have to, like you saying, Pastor, we have to like be able to do the power side too.
Yeah, and the power side becomes, listen, I've made 435 errors. I have made all of them. The stuff that I've done, terrible.
Who you telling?
Terrible.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
All right. But I learned, and you should know my favorite movie, Lion King.
Tuna Matata.
No, watch this. Rafiki, it doesn't matter. It's in the past.
Do you know when you said that to me, I was like pissed, right? Like I was
No, it's
off,
not.
right? Because for me, I never really dealt with my stuff, right? So for me, I'm like, no, it's like it's present. Don't tell me it's in the past because I'm feeling it, right? But understanding that I didn't even realize that I was actually like wanting to keep myself in being a victim, like because my father did this, because my mother did that, right? Like I wanted to stay where I was because that's where it felt comfortable. Not understanding that, like Naisha, like in order for you to be able to like kind of get over on and not get over it, but like allow it to like dwell where it needs to dwell,
See what
and
it
that's
is,
not
yeah.
in you. Like you have to decide to stand up in your power that you have been given. Right. And it's still, I'm not even gonna front, I'm not gonna lie, it's still a challenge, it's still a struggle for me. Right. And that's because I'm working through it. I learned what I learned about myself this last like month is I was never really honest with how I was really feeling. Like I would, if I have a conversation with somebody and they would tell me like, oh, it's in the past, or, no, you shouldn't feel that way, I will automatically internalize that. Right. And I'm like, oh, well, this is what they say, I should feel okay. So I never really dealt with it. I was always stuffing it and packing it. And instead of saying, well, no, that's not really how I feel, I really feel this way. And then now they're able to kind of help me work through it. But I didn't know how to express myself. I just became mute and paralyzed because it was easier that way.
Let me let you off the hook a little bit. You'll probably remember this from counseling with you and Steve. Remember I said women are spaghetti and women are spaghetti. Hopefully I don't get in too much trouble behind this right here. Women are spaghetti and men are Belgian waffles. What does that mean? Belgian waffles have a lot of compartments.
Mm-hmm.
We can shut a compartment out and it's gone.
Yep.
We can move on faster than women can.
Yeah.
Because women are spaghetti. Y'all will remember something we did 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 years ago. Tell us what we had on, what cologne we were wearing, and where we were. Because
I washed your clothes with Tide.
Right. Everything was tied in. Men don't have that ability. Men, it's just like it's for y'all to think in relationally with logic and analytics but y'all can't do that. But we can think emotionally if we give ourselves a lobotomy, which takes a couple minutes. We pull our brains out and put the feelings one in and all that. But the thing is, so we can move on. That's why I was dealing with that more with fathers, not so much with women and daughters.
Yeah.
When I say it, it's to start a process to do it. Mm-hmm. But with men, we can do it a little bit quicker because we can look at something, resolve it, and move forward. So it's a little bit different because daughters have to run it through an entire system of why.
Yeah.
Remove the guilt, remove all that. We're a little more callous. We don't care why. We can, though sometimes we do. Was I good enough? Was I not good enough? However, whatever. I didn't take myself through that because I did not have a negative voice about my father. I only had negative incidents. I think I said that right, Ali. I'm not sure. In other words, nobody talked detrimentally about my father until I got older. Then they would tell me about who or whatever.
Right.
You know, and no, I ain't even gonna deal with that. Yeah, that's all. I saw something and I was getting ready to say something, but I'm not even gonna
leave that. Yeah.
Yeah, go. Yeah, because I'd have opened up a can that we wouldn't close until midnight.
Right. Well, I mean, it's definitely a needed conversation because I feel like it just has us as a society, as a community, like really look at it from a different lens. Because people
Now,
always
Ish, let me just say one thing. Let me tell you something I found out. Daughter. Let me tell you something. Ain't just black folk.
No, it's every
no, it's not.
It's
And that's what I'm
all-
saying. Like society, not even just in the African
Society.
American culture. It's
Yeah, it's
society. I was
yeah.
talking to a gentleman at my job. He is of white.
Caucasian.
He's white. You know what I mean? He's Caucasian, and he was saying the same. Like, as far as like like my dad didn't. He was never really emotional. Like he never grabbed me up and gave me a hug. I didn't. He said so. My thing was all I knew was crying was because I never seen my dad cry. I never seen my dad show any emotion. So I just grew up to do the same exact thing. And I'm like, wow, it's not even just the African American culture.
No, it's all cultures. But I actually want to go back and say something about like when I talked about the prism and all sides, everything having a side. So there was a moment where I actually got to hear the other side. I was really confused for a lot of years and I didn't know, right? And then I heard the other side and I got a totally different perspective on what had happened. Especially as a young person. Like I had a whole, it was like, whoa. I actually stopped having dreams after that, because it was like I got to hear that. And with saying that, Naisha, we've done that.
Yeah.
Right? Like we've been able to like talk and hear each other and listen to each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with that, like there's also another side that you have to listen,
Right.
you have to hear that side too.
And I think hearing both sides gives you an advantage to make a decision. Now now, Ali, Bishop Leonard, is he related to Ernest Leonard?
He's his son.
Oh, that's his son.
That's my cousin, yeah. That's my uncle.
Okay.
That's my Uncle Darren. We are 6 months. He was born June 5th. I was born June 5th, 1965, and I'm born January 1st, 1966. So we like 6 months apart. We've known each other our whole life.
I got
you. We grew up in the same house. We grew up in this. Yeah, that's
no, because here's what he said. Here's what we don't realize. The storms are necessary.
Say it.
Now we can talk about looked at the remarks, all that. The storms are necessary.
They are, yeah.
The question is, what do you choose to look like
after the storm?
Coming out of the storm.
No doubt.
Do you want to be a victim or do you want to be a victor?
Yeah.
Shiny and bright.
At the end of the day, Naisha, you came out a victor.
I did.
But other people will choose to be a victim. Because at the end of the day, the God side says, I'm more than a conqueror. I can't lose. Through the storms, all the Bible talks about is pain before power. God, I'm going to preach that one Sunday.
Pain before power.
Watch this. We want power, but we don't want pain.
Bob Marley said something too. Bob Marley said, everybody want to go to heaven. Nobody want to die.
Nobody want to die. But watch it. I go to the gym and cause myself pain. Because when the smoke clears, I want power.
That's good.
So even in causing the pain, soreness says I got power. Which means soreness says everything I went through may not be over, but I'm over it. That was good right there.
That was
good.
That was good.
Can't say it myself.
That was good.
What we don't realize is we need a memory to see what we've come through.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
The memory says, wow,
Mm-hmm.
This don't hurt no more.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow, they
Mm-hmm.
said this to me and I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
sometimes I learned something because, like I said, my first time my father told me he loved me, I was 58. First time my mother told me she loved me, I think I was 55, something like that.
Mm.
But I learned to deal with the manufacturer and not the distribution center. And I think that's the biggest thing.
Yes.
God said, I'm fearfully, wonderfully made, marvelous are thy works, and my soul knoweth right well. The distribution center doesn't know me. They only distributed me.
Mm.
The distribution center, my mother and father made me legal in the earth realm. But God made me affirm before I even got here.
Yeah.
So sometimes, even in the midst of all of this, because we can always throw blame to everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody.
Hold on the wall. Yep.
Guess what? And they deserve it.
Sometimes.
Because, well, and I'm going to say it for this reason. They deserve it because they had the option to get better.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And sometimes we do early enough, sometimes we do late enough. I don't know which one I did. I know in certain things I didn't do it early enough to help in totality, but I know I did it late enough to somewhere be a blessing to not just my kids, but everybody.
Yeah.
Listen, David said, when my mother and father forsake me, then the Lord will take me up. So David knew what it was to deal with all of this. So I just think, I just think I had to learn, Naish, from Erica. You can't comment on remarks from the podcast. So yeah, I'm focused. Okay, go ahead.
Right. Right. I mean, we are at our time. We actually went a little over, but it was necessary. But I want to do two more things, right? The first thing is I want to read something that I found. It's just like an encouraging quote to fathers, to all fathers, I feel like. And then once we finish that, I just want you guys to maybe just say a couple of words to men out there, right, to kind of uplift them, in this fatherhood journey, because it can be very challenging, right? As what we talked about and what we unpacked in just this little bit of time, it's probably so much more, because there's a lot of things that men just go through as being men and then in return as being fathers, right? It's just a lot, but I feel like it has opened up our eyes, from a woman's standpoint, especially me. I think I'm just very intrigued now on fatherhood, right, and all the things that you guys really have to deal with. And like the research that I've been doing, like it really kind of like made me want to cry, right. But I'm gonna keep myself together today. I'm gonna keep it together because my lashes is my last pair.
Mom has a whole new set that just got mailed.
Oh, okay, Mom, Sylvia, be stopping by, girl. Be stopping by. Okay, so I'm gonna read this really quick. Literally, when I was reading this at work, I cried when reading it out loud. So I'm hoping that the waterworks don't start, but I got my tissue. All right. So it says, to all the fathers who stepped up, plugged in, held on, forged ahead, committed to, learned how, embraced all, encountered much, battled through, held tight, loved soft, never quit, backed off, let loose, braved courage, faced fears, prayed for, tightened up, loosened reins, remembered when, helped often, inspired much, led forward, stayed true, taught morals, found strength, said yes, valued life, reasoned well, gave in, made time, had fun, helped out, played fair, took care, provided plenty, let go, stood up, swallowed pride, changed paths, took risks, dug deep, went easy, pushed forward, fought for, carried burdens, kept going, dreamed big, never quit, shed tears, forgave often, found patience, shined light, suffered pain, made dates, had faith, showed respect, wrote notes, held hands, stayed safe, laughed loud, lost sleep, slowed down, tackled chores, tried harder, let win, chose right, opened up, gave grace, got involved, and gave all. I commend you as being a father.
Wow. Wow.
I feel like that just said a lot to what men have to go through. All men, whether they're dealing with the struggle of not being able to see their kids, they are seeing their kids. Like it just spoke to just all fathers. And that's what I really wanted to do. I wanted to speak to all fathers. All fathers. So, with that being said, and I got through it without crying.
Almost.
Almost, I did. I choked up a little bit. I'm like, oh, pull it together. Dad, Ali.
Which one? I'm like,
I know. Dad, Ali.
which
Dad,
one?
Ali. If you could think of, I think I just want to do one word. If you could think of one word to encourage a father, what would that word be?
Inspire.
Okay.
Persevere.
Okay. I love it.
Those two words together,
Yes.
you be on your way to doing some good stuff.
Dope. I love it. All right, y'all. Well, that's it.
The show is always way too short. You need to like every week we always like, oh, more. You need to like in season 5, you need to like up the ante and go like an hour and a half.
Okay, I could challenge myself to that. We'll see. It also depends on the guest too, as well.
Yeah,
sometimes
that's true.
in the conversation. I'm sorry
But
about the
I think I have not watched one show where I was like, oh, that's enough. Like every show, I'm like,
I think Chloe gets hungry after an hour though.
Yeah, she does.
Chloe,
She's
yeah,
like, you've been on the call too long now.
right, Chloe.
I kept quiet for an hour.
And she definitely hungry because she don't want to go outside to go to the bathroom.
Exactly. All right, y'all. Good night. Thank you, everybody.
That was
I love you.
Such
everybody.
a pleasure to see you.
To both of my fathers.
All right.
I love y'all. Good night.
All right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.